Hello, hello, beautiful people, my beautiful pearls. How's everyone doing today, tonight, this beautiful Thursday? I hope everyone is doing great. I just finished having my evening tea because it's evening here, and I'm so excited for today's webinar. Just before we start, let me remind you, we're going to be together for almost 1 hour, okay? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep the chat open. So if you have any questions, if you want to, participate specifically with questions, please go ahead and put them in the chat. And I will try to attend to them at the end of the webinar. All right. Now, another thing is I want you to stick to the end because at the end of the webinar, I have a special invitation for you. And today's topic is very interesting. I actually decided to do today's topic because last week when we were talking about, I think it was confidence, I'm losing track. But I told you, if you feel like you want to discuss any specific topic or you want me to talk about any specific topic, just let me know. And one of you has actually sent me a message saying that it would be great if I can talk about guilt. And why do people feel guilty if they want to embrace their own life? Why is it that we always have this feeling of guilt? Let me just open the chat here and I'll just put it, just remove my notes and I will put it outside. So you can talk to me and you can also, I think you can chat with each other as well. Pop out. There we go. So before I tell you everything about, before I talk about guilt, I always like to start my webinars by sharing a personal story. And today it's very important that I'm sharing a personal story because I'm going to talk about sharing as part of the webinar as well. And as part of, it's one of the ways to get out of feeling guilt. So I'll tell you later though. So let me tell you the story. I have a lot of stories actually about times when I used to feel guilty about doing things. But the story that when I was writing today's post, that was the story that just came to my mind and I wanted to share it. So back when I came, like 23 years ago, when I came to this country, I was much younger, 23 years younger, and I was requested by my father to stay at my brother's house because my brother lived here. He still does, but at that time, I was told that the only way for me to come to this country would be if I actually stayed with my brother. So that was something that at that time, I really did not negotiate much because all I wanted to do was to leave where I was living. I was going through a bit of a turmoil in my personal life. I was having a lot of issues, because of a relationship I was in. So everything was not working for me. And I really needed to leave. I really wanted to leave. I just wanted to put everything behind and get out. And I said, you know what? Okay, I'm going to do this. I don't care. I'll stay with my brother. And my brother at that time, he was newlywed. He had been like probably wed for 1 year and that's it. And even then, I was not really like close to his wife, okay, to my sister-in-law. But because I wanted to leave my home country and I wanted to have a fresh start for myself, I said, okay, I accepted my father's terms and conditions. So I came to this country and I stayed with my brother. During those, I literally lasted for 6 months. That was it. But during those 6 months, at the beginning, I mean, she tried. I have to give her that. She did her best to accommodate me. And I don't really consider myself as a heavy guest, I kind of consider myself as a light guest or a light person to be around. I joke, I'm fun. I don't, I'm not a drama queen. Like, I really hate drama, to be honest, because I lived in a house that is full of drama. So for me, drama is like a no, right? But we always, even though we think we are beautiful and amazing and all of these things, that does not mean that people will accept that about us, or that does not mean that people will see that in us, and I'll tell you why. A lot of times, not a lot of times, all the time, like every person we have in our life, and this is why eventually we let go of people in our life, because every person that exists in our life is a reflection of us. Even then, well, I didn't know that then, but now when I look at it, even then, my presence in my brother's house with his wife and her being in my life at that very specific period of time, she was a reflection of me somehow, somewhere, and her character was showing me bits of my character that at that time I really did not know that this is what was happening, and this is what I was seeing in her things about me that I did not like, and that's why I did not enjoy her being there. Well, I was the one being there, but still, just that dynamic at that time was not working for me. And I bet you it was not working for her, because the same thing happened with her. So she was seeing in me things about her that she didn't like, because I was a reflection of her. And I was seeing in her things about me that I didn't like, because I was a reflection, because she was a reflection of me. And this is how people are in our lives. Like, everyone that comes into our life is in one way or another a reflection of us. So, because what I want you to do is this is just coming in now. Like, I'm having this message coming through. So I just want you to remember this. This is very important. And I want you to, every time you are going through any kind of questioning or any kind of turmoil in your mind about people in your life, I want you to ask these questions. I want you to ask yourself, what is it in this person that is a reflection of me? Why is this person, what is this person trying to show me about me? Right? They're not trying to show you anything about themselves. They're trying to really show you kind of what is happening within you. And when I thought about it later, like now when I think about it, when I was with my living in my brother's house for like 6 months, I was literally seeing everything about me in her that I hated, like every single thing. Okay. I know this might be a little bit far from the topic of guilt, but you want to also remember that this is very important, because also the feeling of guilt really starts from within. And I'm going to explain that in a bit. And that's what I truly believe. I mean, some people might tell you, no, we feel guilty because someone else is making us feel guilty. But, nobody can make you feel anything. The only reason why you feel anything is because you gave in your power. So when you give in your power, you are the one feeling that guilt. They're not making you anything. You're the one feeling. And exactly the same way, when I was living with my brother in his house, my relationship with his wife was a reflection of how I was with me. I was not happy. I was gloomy all the time. I was, I just did not want to be there. And all her reactions, everything that she was doing was to reinforce this thing that I was having in my mind, the thing that I was struggling with, the fact that I went there just because my father imposed that in his terms and conditions, you know? So everything that she did was sort of what I requested from her to do because I wanted a way out. And that was my way out. So 6 months down the line, I told my brother, listen, I'm not going to be able to take this anymore. And my brother knew, and he just, you know, he couldn't do much about it. Newlywed, she was also pregnant with her first daughter, with, well, her only daughter, because she has 2 other boys. But that daughter in the picture, in the post, that is her daughter. She's 20 years now, 23 actually, 22. So, you know, she was in that state and I was an intruder, and I totally get it. I totally get it. But everything that she was doing was literally what I wanted her to do, so that I have my reasons, so that I also have my terms and conditions to impose on my father and tell him that, look, I'm not going to take this anymore, you know, and whether you're happy with that or not, I really don't care. That's exactly what I told my brother. I told him, you either tell him or I will tell him. And I really like have no issues telling him that I'm going to move. But my brother is a very diplomatic person. So he's like, okay, I will handle this and let's look for a house for you. And that's exactly what happened. I left. All right. Now, when I left, I felt guilty for disobeying my father. Really? I don't think so. I felt a little bit like under the radar, you know, because my father, the only reason why he wanted me to stay with my brother is to be able to monitor everything that I'm doing. So when I left, I felt I was even monitored more just because I left, because I disobeyed him. Now, the fact that I disobeyed him, that might have been a trigger for me to feel guilty. Now, personally, I did not feel guilty because I had 2 options. I had 2 things to think about or to consider. Which one was I going to take? Would I accept being, you know, guilt tripped by my father all the time and live in in a place where I am emotionally and verbally sometimes abused? Or would I let go of that guilt trip that he was doing? And would I just get off that you know, train that he was trying to impose on me, which is the train of guilt? So I decided to take my life into my own hands. I decided to be the decision maker for myself. I decided to be my own master. Did I feel guilty? No. Do I feel guilty now? No. But maybe anyone else in my shoes might have felt really guilty. Because, look, I have always been that rebellious person, you know, I've always thought that I'm going to do things my way. And sometimes I understand that it would be probably hurtful for others, but that hurt is not because of me. And this is the message I want to give you today. We feel guilty sometimes, or most of the time when we feel guilty because we think that if we move in one direction, the other people who are expecting things from us and they are building their expectations on us are going to be disappointed. And that's why we feel guilty. Now, I want to tell you about where does this guilt come from, right? So where does it start initially? First of all, since we are born, we are conditioned by society around us. We're conditioned by our parents, yes, but we're also conditioned by society. And society has got these very rigid standards, very rigid norms, like you cannot change them, right? So these norms are actually imposed on us, and these norms are dictating how we should live our lives. So because this has been our conditioning, so it's like ingrained in us, it becomes part of us. We start feeling guilty if we go in the opposite direction. Does it make sense? So when we go in the opposite direction, we start feeling as if we are betraying that society. And this is where that guilt comes from. Now, what I want you to do, I'm going to give you some tips today because this is why we do this. I'm going to give you a tip, very simple tip as to really how you can get out of that guilt, thinking that you are disobeying the norms of the society. What I want you to start doing, I want you to start challenging those norms and challenging those standards that are not even yours. They are outside standards that society has imposed on you one way or another through the conditioning that you've been through in your life. So what I want you to do is I want you to question those norms. Do they look like me? Are they in any way close to the way that I think, close to the way that I truly feel deep down inside? And when you do that, you will find that the answer is going to be no, they are not. And the minute that your answer is no, if you had this much of a feeling of guilt, it's going to go away. So try this. This is my tip for you when it comes to societal conditioning and when it comes to the norms that are imposed on us by society. That's one point I want to talk about when it comes to the root of our guilt. The other point that I want to talk about is the family expectations. So I talked about the conditioning coming from society. Now this is the conditioning coming from our own family. I say expectations, that's true, but those expectations are because our parents and our families have also been conditioned as well in their own timeline, in their own life, and in their own experiences. So because they have been conditioned, through that conditioning, they have very specific expectations from us as their offspring, right? And here I'm really focusing about family and parents specifically. So what happens is that they impose on us their own beliefs, their own values. This is how we learn. We learn through them as we come here because we are kids, and that's what we are learning. So we learn through them. Whatever we know we know it through them. But what happens is when we go through life, those beliefs and those standards that were imposed on us, or that they were not really imposed on us per se, but we acquired them because this is the only thing that we saw around us, you know? So we acquired them because that's what existed then. What happens is when we become older and we get more exposed to everything available out there, especially now with all the developments and with all the connectivity that we have around the globe, we start questioning even the beliefs that we have picked up from our own family, right? So because they have those expectations from us and we've been living knowing that they have those expectations from us, if we choose to go in our own way and defy those expectations, this is what happens. We start feeling guilty. So this is another route why we start feeling guilty. Now, how to get out of that feeling of guilt when we go in the different direction of the expectations of our parents? Here, you want to really go and figure out your own beliefs and find out your own standards. And when you do, you want to communicate those standards and you want to create your own boundaries. I have discovered that one of the most important things that people miss to do is set their boundaries. And this is why we allow everything to happen to us in this case, right? So when we set our boundaries, we are actually literally creating a shield that will tell people that, hey, these are your limits and you cannot cross them. And the way to do this, you want to do it in a very assertive way. It cannot be something like, yeah, let's do this. And hey, these are my boundaries, and you just let go. You want to make sure that when you are setting your boundaries, you do it. I mean, it depends. A lot of people, like when I set my boundaries, I actually don't say them. I just act, and people will know. Sometimes there are people who don't understand by you acting. You want to actually tell them. And when you tell them, you want to be assertive. I have people like this in my life. One of my very close friends, and I love her dearly, and I really love her, but she's a negative person. Well, at least she used to be. So I made it clear to her that the last time when we spoke, I said, listen, and she was like, because she doesn't live here, so she comes and goes. And she's like, I really miss you and I want to come and see you. And I said, okay, definitely. I would be very happy to see you. However, I have a condition. And my condition is, if you come to see me, you're not allowed to say anything negative. You're not allowed to nag. You're not allowed to feel bad about yourself. You're not allowed to feel negative about yourself. I gave her all the things that I don't want to accept in my life. These were my boundaries because I don't want negative people in my life. I don't want people who nag in my life. I made a very conscious decision about that, and I feel zero guilt about it, So when I told her that, you have no idea what her reaction was. She was like, oh my God, thank you for saying this. No, I want to come and I actually want to be positive. I want to learn from you. I want to know what you are doing. I want to be like you. I want to be able to say whatever you told me now to anyone in my life who might be causing me anything that is harming me or that is bringing my energy down. That was her reaction to what I told her. And I told her that with all assertiveness. So you want to be assertive when you are setting your boundaries with your family and also with your friends. I did the same thing with my parents, by the way. I created my boundaries, and with my parents, I had to tell them because they would always try and they would always want to impose. So I had to make it very clear, and I mentioned, okay, this is acceptable, this is not acceptable, this is none of your business, this you can interfere in. These are the things that I had to tell them. And our family, they think they can still be part of our life, like they want to live through us, especially our parents. They kind of feel like they own us from the minute they give birth to us. Khalil Gibran said, your children are not yours. Your children are the children of life. So when you bring them to this world, they're no longer yours. They are here to have their own experiences, just like I'm having mine, just like you are having yours. If you have children, they're going to have theirs as well. And you want to let them. And you don't want to take them on guilt trips all the time. That's not going to be constructive to them. That's not going to help them. That's going to actually create possible limiting beliefs for them that they're going to have to work on when they get older. Just kind of like what I did when I did my self-discovery journey. Maybe what you're doing now, attending this seminar and trying to have, a different perspective to life. So you want to remember that, okay? That's when it comes to really the second reason or the second root of us feeling guilty, which is our family and our parents, right? The third one is our, us. There's no better way to say it. Us. We make ourselves feel guilty. Why? Because it's been so ingrained in us that it kind of became part of our DNA. So every time we do something that does not really fit anything outside of us, we feel guilty. So this is something that only you, well, everything else is your doing. Everything else is in your power. But for this one, you really want to look at yourself and you really want to treat yourself with compassion, kind of the same way you would treat a friend, the same way you would be feeling bad or compassionate or want to help a friend. That's exactly how you want to treat yourself when you are feeling guilty from within, because this is like, it's kind of ingrained in you. You don't even know why you are feeling guilty, because it's such a part of you now that you have been conditioned to be this way for so long, or to feel guilty for anything that is really not part of your own life, like anything that you want that is defying anything outside of you, you feel guilty. That's because that guilt is so ingrained in you. And the best way to get out of this is to be compassionate to yourself. By being compassionate to yourself, you are giving yourself room for making mistakes. You are giving yourself room for falling and for being vulnerable. And you are loving yourself and you're accepting yourself and you are okay with it. This is what it means to be compassionate. So you are usually compassionate with your friends, because how do you talk to your friend when your friend comes to you and starts like, I don't know, nagging or crying, or something bad is happening in their life? How do you treat them? You always treat them, you always say, for example, you would say, it's okay, things will get better, don't worry. You'd be like nice to them so they feel good about themselves. That's exactly how you want to be with you when you feel that guilt so ingrained within you. So these are the three roots I want to talk about today. There are so many other roots for guilt. You can feel guilty because of peer pressure. You can feel guilty because you are always comparing between you and maybe other friends, and comparison can make you feel guilty. So there are so many reasons, but today I really wanted to focus on these three, especially the one related to society and the family, because I feel that the person who asked me to talk about this today, I feel that this is where they need most focus and most attention. So these are the tips that you want to follow. First of all, when it comes to society, you want to question and you want to challenge those norms and those standards that are being imposed on us by that so-called society, right? So that conditioning, you want to challenge it. With family, you want to set those boundaries, and you want to be assertive about setting those boundaries. So these are the tips that you want to really exercise when it comes to these two. And the third one, which is that guilt that is completely ingrained in you, you want to make sure that you are compassionate to yourself and that it is okay, sometimes to just not wanting to do something just because someone else wants you to do it. And it's okay for you to have your own decisions. It's okay for you to have your own life. It's not just that it's okay, it's your divine right. This is why you are here. You are on this planet. Let me make it very clear, people. You are on this planet to live your own life. You are not on this planet to live someone else's life. And you are not on this planet to live someone else's plans, or to follow someone else's plans, or to do whatever anyone outside of you wants to do. You are on this planet to figure yourself out, to find yourself out, to find your own journey, and to walk in that journey and take that journey. This is why you exist here. And it's your divine right to do that without feeling guilty, without even considering what the other party might think or might feel or they've had their journeys, they've had their trips. Now it's your turn. It's your journey, and you are the one who is living it. They're not going to live it for you, and you're not going to allow it. You're not going to allow that. Okay? Remember that. Remember that this vessel is your medium in this planet, on this planet, and the medium for your soul. And your soul is here to live its own purpose, not the purpose that's going to impose on your soul by society, not the purpose that's going to be imposed on your soul by your family, and not the purpose that's going to be imposed on your soul by your own weaknesses. Okay, remember that. Now, how do you navigate the expectations of everyone around you? So first things first, you want to do that self-reflection. Self-reflection basically is understanding your own beliefs, understanding your own desires, understanding your own values and your own aspirations. Most of the time, we go through life thinking that these values are mine, or these are my aspirations, or these are my dreams, while in fact, most of the time, these are imposed on us by others. So in order for you to navigate those expectations and to really be able to stand up for what you believe, you want to know what you believe. You want to know what you believe. Let me put it this way. You want to know what you believe. So even if you feel like, okay, this is a belief that I do believe this, question and challenge. Do you really believe this? Do you really believe, for example, what your parents have been teaching you since you were a child? As we're talking about values here, and we're talking about, beliefs, and we're talking about specific aspirations or even desires, like, for example, when we are kids, as we are growing up, our parents would always want us to be either doctors or lawyers or public figures. So this is like, or teachers, like these are the most common ones that our parents would always want us to be. And many of us grow up to follow that and become that doctor and become that lawyer and be unhappy in the process. Many of us. Some of us do, have the same values, and this is amazing, because that means that they will live their life nicely without even feeling guilty because they're not going to change anything, because they're going to do whatever their parents want them to do, but it also makes them happy. But if something doesn't make me happy, if something doesn't really resonate with my own desires, with my own values, why would I feel guilty if I don't do it? Why? If I do it, I would feel miserable. I would feel guilty towards myself. I prefer to, well, I don't feel guilty. That's it. I wouldn't feel guilty. And this is the mindset that you want to have. You want to have the mindset that I'm not going to feel guilty because I'm deciding to live my life. Because it is my life. You know, I actually used to challenge my parents all the time. All the time. When I studied, when I decided what I'm going to do in college, it was against everything that my father wanted, you know, and yet I did it. And at some points in time, he did not even go to see like the things that I used to do in college. Like, for example, I used to sing in the Christmas choir back in the college days, and he would never come to watch me. And I wouldn't care. Would I feel guilty because I was singing and he's not there? No, I didn't feel guilty because I was doing what I personally, truly loved and desired from the bottom of my heart. If I wanted to follow my father's footsteps, I would probably be in politics right now. Imagine me being in politics. That would make him happy. But what about me? He lived his life throughout his life in politics. I never told him, hey, what are you doing there? Why are you doing that? You know, the fact that our family or our, even anyone outside of us, thinking that they have the right to interfere in our life, this is not because of them. This is because we gave our power in. So instead of you giving in your power and just letting things happen because you are allowing it, stop allowing it. And you do that by creating those boundaries. Those boundaries are like, you should consider them as your Bible. Your boundaries are literally your Bible. It's literally like being like, if there's a country and it doesn't have any boundaries, everyone would go in and out, and there's no order, there's nothing of the sort, right? So you want to have that order in your life, and to have that order in your life, simply you want to create those boundaries. So you want to remember, when you do that self-reflection, are your choices in line with your own value, with your own values, or with your own likes and dislikes, or with your own passions? If they are, then you should feel zero guilt for anything that you are doing. If they are not, then you want to know why they are not. And if they are not, most of the time, you would be feeling guilty. Because, no, sorry, you wouldn't be feeling guilty. You would be feeling sorrowful yourself, all right? Without knowing why you are sorrowful. You are sorrowful because you are following norms and values and aspirations that are not even yours. So remember, self-reflection is very important. The second thing that you want to do, you want to challenge every assumption and every belief that comes your way. It's like, if somebody tells you something, you don't just take it on board and live with it, you know? No, you want to question. You want to really challenge everything that comes your way. And you want to ask, is this mine? Or is this something that is coming to me from X, Y, and Z? Right? If it's yours, then you know it's yours, and you want to see if it really falls within your values and within your standards, your own values and your own standards. And if that's the case, then you embrace it. But if not, then you want to challenge it. You want to say, okay, what am I going to do? You want to also remember that expectations that come from outside of us, they come for a specific reason because we are allowing them. So we want to ask, why am I allowing these people or this kind of expectation to be projected on me in my life? What is it that I am trying to learn here? What is it that I'm trying to understand here? And I want to give you a tip. This exercise, you want to do it for everything that happens in your life. So if you are, let's say, I don't know, if you are always making the same mistake, okay, you want to ask yourself, what am I trying to learn here? What am I trying to teach myself? Why do I keep on doing this? There's something in here for me that I still have not found. And that's why I keep on repeating this, so that I can find it and understand it and move past it. So every time that anything happens in your life, you want to have those questions. This is a tip that works on everything. Okay. And the minute you start asking those questions, trust me, the answers will come, by the way. You might think that you don't have the answers, but with the right questions, you will have all the answers in the world. And when you have all the answers in the world, you will know exactly what you need to do. You will know exactly what you need to do, because you are already someone who has all the information. We all do. You have them, I have them. We all have all the information that came with us to this world. You know, we just forgot, because when we came, we were not able to even, express ourselves. With the conditioning, the information that we know has become like so deep, and with all those layers on top of it, we can't really access it, right? And that's what the awakening is all about. When you are in an awakening journey, it's like you are removing all those layers, those layers, so that you see what you really possess deep down inside of you. All right. Again, boundaries, people. Cannot stress that enough. It's going to come out everywhere, you will see, but boundaries are very, very important. Now, another thing that you want to do is you want to face your fears. So to face your fears, the first thing you want to think of is your comfort zone. Okay. I want you to treat your comfort zone this way. I want you to sit with yourself and ask yourself this question. Is my comfort zone comfortable to me? And see what comes up. Most of the time, the answer is going to be no. My comfort zone is very, very uncomfortable, actually. And this is what it means to face your fears. You want to get out of that comfort zone. The reason why we are always stuck in our comfort zone is because we are afraid of the unknown. We are afraid of what is out there that we are not sure of, that we have not tapped into. So to face your fears, those fears of the unknown mainly, you want to really get out of your comfort zone. And the minute you get out of your comfort zone, and the minute you let go of those fears by getting out of your comfort zone, like when you are in your comfort zone, this is how I like to compare it. When you are in your comfort zone, this is the furthest you can see, like to the tip of your nose. When you get out of your comfort zone, then you are literally looking at the horizon. You can see everything, and the potential is so big, and the options are so many, and the possibilities are so many, right? So the moment you get out of that comfort zone, this is what's going to happen. And remember, when you do that, the last thing that you want to think of is feeling guilty, you know? So when you face your fears and get out and look at the thing, at how many options are, at like the kind of potential that you have, You want to live your life guilt-free, and you will live your life guilt-free. What I've noticed also is it's very interesting, but what I've really noticed is when you go through those first steps that I mentioned earlier, which are the questioning and the challenging, and then setting the boundaries and really being compassionate with yourself, automatically people will stop. Somehow it like that guilt tripping that happens from those people around us stops, especially when we are assertive, because people would start feeling like they're not going to get anywhere with us. You know, no matter what they do, we're not gonna fall, we're not gonna falter, we're not gonna accept to go back to that, you know, guilt process that they imply on us or that we impose on ourselves. You know, a lot of times, like I think maybe 60 or 75%, 70% of the time, we impose guilt on ourselves. And sometimes if it's funny, sometimes if you actually talk to people and tell them, I feel guilty because I did this and you probably didn't want me to do it, they would go like, who told you? This is why challenging is very important, because sometimes, because of our upbringing, we feel like this guilt is being imposed on us by something outside of us. But remember that nothing is outside of us. Everything is from within. Everything starts from within, even the bad things. So those bad things, we are creating them to learn. And when we learn, we're not going to create them anymore because we've just done learning, right? It's done. Now, what I want to talk about now is really, really empowering the positive change that you are doing in your life. You might feel guilty because you are choosing yourself. You might feel guilty because you are choosing to live your life the way that you want to live your life. You can tell this to yourself all you want. If you follow the steps that I just gave you earlier, you will stop feeling this way. Now, what I want you to do is I want you to, when you stop feeling this way, this is what you're going to be doing. You are going to be the example for others, kind of like I am an example today. And I'm talking about my story, and I'm telling my story so proudly, and I'm telling how I learned from all my journeys, right? And I've had so many stories. So what you want to do is you want to lead by example. You want to be that person that unapologetically lives in alignment with their own authentic self. This is the best thing that you can ever do for you. First of all, when you do your self-reflection, you will find out what your authentic self is all about, right? And when you do that, the next step is you want to really live it unapologetically. You want to live your life aligned with that authentic self of yours. You want to live your life aligned with your mission, because yeah, your authentic self has a mission. You want to live aligned with that without having to apologize to anyone. And without not having to apologize means that you're not guilty of anything. Because when you apologize, it's like you are feeling that there's some guilt here somewhere. So that's why you apologize and you feel sorry. So when you live your life in alignment with your authentic self, unapologetically, you are leading by example. Everyone else will be wanting to be just like you. So you want to become really a role model to others. This is what you want to be. And that's what I mean by empowering positive change. So that positive change that you are creating for yourself, you are giving it more power by being that role model, simply. I'm trying to find another word, but the best word is role model. And lead, and the others will follow, because People want people to look up to. People want people to be able to guide them, you know, sometimes unknowingly. Sometimes, you know, you are talking in a space and you're telling your story. You're inspiring so many people without even knowing it. So that's what you want to do. You want to be inspirational. You want to inspire others by taking those steps and by living your own life authentically, the way you want to live it, not the way anyone else wants you to live it. Okay. And also breaking the social norms. So when you challenge the social norms, you are creating a new wave of development. Because nobody wants to stay, like, imagine we are still today following the social norms of when we were Homo sapiens, for example, right? Like the early man. Imagine we are still following those norms today, right? So you want to challenge the social norms and you want to create new waves. You want to create new waves, kind of like how we have social media now and things are developing, all right? And then that what do you call it? Self-discovery. You want to embrace your self-discovery. By embracing your self-discovery, you are first and foremost, you are saying yes to yourself. You are telling yourself, hey, I know who I am. I want to be that person, and I'm going to take my time to really understand everything about me. I'm going to take my time to really figure things out for myself without being followed or without waiting for other people's validations, without comparing myself to anyone, without being afraid of judgment or of being judged. Because that fear you want to face when you face all your fears and get out of your comfort zone. You want to be in a space where whatever people say is not a judgment to you. Whatever people say is a judgment to themselves. Remember that. Because remember what I said at the beginning, everything is a reflection, or everything that we see in others is a reflection of us. So if they are judging us, it's because they are judging themselves. You want to learn to be really, really away from judgment. And when you get to that place, you can only get to that place through embracing your self-discovery and doing that dive within to really find your own thoughts, your own expressions, your own emotions. Like, you live through yourself, not through whatever has been imposed on you by the external factors in your life. And by factors, I mean everything. I mean people, I mean society, I mean circumstances, I mean everything. So you want to remember really who you truly are. And that connection, when you do that self-discovery, you are understanding who your authentic self is. And living from that space on its own is enough for you to feel satisfied and really with zero guilt. Once you get there, you will have zero guilt, I can promise you. Okay, especially when you do your self-discovery and understand that a lot of the thoughts that you had were not even yours. So you will really, why would you feel guilty if they're not even yours? You see what I mean? Right. Now, when you do that self-discovery, you want to also embrace your interests. You want to find out what truly moves you. You want to find out what truly makes you happy. What is it that moves me? What is it that makes me happy? If being a doctor doesn't make me happy, I'm not going to be a doctor. Simple. You know, if being a dancer is what makes me happy, I'm gonna work my off to be a dancer. And I should not even care about what people think, what people say, what other people might feel, because this is not their life, it is mine. they are living their own life. And they want to live their life through their own visions, through their own lives, through their own thoughts, through their own authenticity, just kind of like what you are doing for yourself. So if you always have this in your mindset, you will not feel guilty. And to answer that person who asked me today, how can we stop feeling guilty when we choose to live our own lives? This is how. This is how. By figuring everything out for yourself and knowing that your life is yours. Everything that you do in your life is your choice. You're the one who's deciding how to move forward. So remember those things always, always, always. And then, like I said, when you share your story, you are already being that authentic person, because you're talking from the heart, because you're really sharing the things that shaped you, that made you who you are. And when you do that, again, people will look up at you and they will be like, oh, like, I really, really want to learn how she did that. And I want to be able to do the same for myself. You don't want to be like me, but you want to be following the steps that helped me to become like as I am today, so that you can find your own authenticity. Does that make sense? So it's not like, I'm certainly not telling you to be like me. I'm telling you that you want to be your authentic self, and you want to be proud of it, and you want to share it. You want to scream it out. You want to tell everyone in the world, hey, this is who I am, and I'm so proud of it. And I made a lot, and I went through so much to be where I am today, and no one can make me feel guilty about that. This is the last message I'm going to give you today, and I want you to really like grasp this message and remember it all the time, that your authenticity is yours, your life is yours, and you are the one who can control if you feel guilty or not. This feeling is not controlled by anyone outside of you. You control it. If you want to experience it, that means that you are trying to learn something. If you still experience it, ask yourself, why am I still experiencing it? What am I trying to learn here? What am I missing? Ask yourself the questions. Always, always, people, ask yourself the questions. And when you do, like, you don't want to ask yourself the questions when you are angry or pissed off, or you want to ask yourself these questions when you are relaxed, when you are really in a, in a state where you are with yourself. I'm not going to say meditative. You can, like, if you are someone who journals, you can ask yourself these questions while you are journaling, and you will see how your hand is going to write the answer, because the answer is within you and you will have it. With that, I'm going to move to my invitation to you. If you are someone who might need like this, maybe push to get to that place, maybe a push to face your fears, maybe a push to start getting out of that conditioning, maybe a push to understand what it is like, or how do you go through all of this, because this is a huge thing that to go through, and you feel that I might have some answers for you. Just let me know. I will be more than happy to get on a call with you and go through whatever you are going through in your life. Understand your situation, understand everything that you are going through. And I want to know also what you desire for yourself in your life. And I will give you a lot of tips during that discussions, depending on what the discussion will look like. You will receive a lot of tips from me as to how you can move from where you are now to where you want to be, just like with the very little tips that you can start implementing right here, right now. And then at the end of the call, if I feel like I might have the right plan for you, and if I feel like our energies would really support that journey of yours, I will show you what it looks like to work with me. So all you need to do is let me know. You can message me. I will include the link for the messenger, and you can book a call. I will include the link for the book a call with the replay. Just let me know if you want that, and let's get on that call and see where that takes us. And I hope today was enlightening for all of you. And thank you so much for being here. And I will see you again next week. Remember, if there's any specific topic that you want me to talk about, just send it to me either by email or on Messenger. I'd rather on Messenger, and I will make sure I cover it if I can. I'll see you next week. Ciao, ciao.